Yo, man. Welcome back to another episode of For the Love of the Game. Episode 11, playoff basketball. We back at it. We got Boston taking a 2-0 lead. Jalen Brunson got in a bag I've never seen him get into before. And Jimmy Butler got into a bag I've never seen them get into before. And you know what I'm saying? Not too much. All that next. Okay, starting in the West, of course, with the 3-6. Golden State versus Denver. Not much has changed. Golden State up 2-0. They're actually playing right now, and they up 69-59 in the third. But like I said, nothing's changed, right? Jokic still needs help. Jokic still doesn't have enough guys around him. Will Barton is not a superstar. Aaron Gordon's not a guy that you can really rely on to upset these Warriors. Warriors are up 2-0. It's been a breeze, right? But the Warriors are back to having fun. Warriors basketball is back to Warriors basketball. Jordan Poole, ladies and gentlemen, is elite. Jordan Poole is elite. He really won me over the other night with some of the passes. I think he had 2 behind-the-back dimes to Klay Thompson. He had another good pass to Bielitsa. Like, the playmaking was on display. The shooting, we've seen that. The finishing, he could do that. He has the ball on the string already. The playmaking is something I want to see. And just off of that sample size, I know, because there's a difference between a good passer and a willing passer. Some guys aren't always the most willing passers. That doesn't mean that they can't pass. Jordan Poole is such a heavy scorer and everything. Sometimes we may get lost in the playmaking, but he definitely brought all of that full circle. He's arguably the best player on the Warriors, right? And especially when you're now getting into a point of you got to start talking starting lineups, right? Steph is on the bench right now, but that's just because he's nursing that ankle injury. His minute restriction just got bumped up. So we're not going to be seeing Steph coming off the bench too much. That starts to wonder, what do you do with Jordan Poole? Does Jordan Poole become a starter? Which in these first 2 games, and while Steph was out and while Klay was out, he's definitely shown he can be a capable starter in the NBA. Or the question is, do you go back to your regular rotation, swap him and Steph, right? Steph comes back in the starting lineup. Jordan Poole goes back to the bench. This is what I'll say. I'm glad Andrew Wiggins got his all-star season out the way before Klay came back. I'm glad that the first half of the season, A. Wiggs was able to play like a vital role on the squad. So therefore, he got his all-star nod. He got his recognition. Because, of course, when Klay came back, we knew his minutes were going to go down and his shots were going to go down. Both of those things have happened. What we maybe didn't factor in was the emergence of Jordan Poole, right? So now the emergence of Jordan Poole, it leaves you 2 questions. Does Jordan Poole go to the bench, or do you insert the death lineup? PTSD, as they call it. Poole, Steph, Thompson, Dre, and then that 5th would be Wiggs. I say you start with that. Now, I don't know if that's something that they're looking to pull out later in the series, but Jordan Poole has definitely shown he's a top guy. He can shoot with the best of them. He has the ball on the string. His confidence is out the roof right now with everybody hyping him up and him playing well. And now we got to wonder, like, when we talk big 3, are we talking Steph, Klay, Draymond, or are we talking Steph, Klay, Poole? No disrespect, Dre. I know you ain't got no championship. I'm just saying, as far as the big 3 on that team. But nah, for real, bro. Golden State up 2-0. They're back in Denver right now, so anything can change. It's not a series until somebody wins on the road. But games 1 and 2 are very similar, right? And that's as far as the points that were scored, the guy who scored the highest points in the game, all of that. So game 1, it was 123 to 107. Game 2, it was 126 to 106. The highest scorer in game 1 was Jordan Poole with 30. And the highest scorer in game 2 was Stephen Curry with 34. So games 1 and 2 really mirror each other, with Golden State coming out just giving Denver a good old ass whooping. You know, they don't have enough players though, you know. So you can really cut them some slack there. I want to go sweep. I don't know if I want to push push the limits already and go sweep instantly, but the way the Warriors are playing, they're getting back to those days where they're a force to be reckoned with. Jordan Poole has really completed this team, and then they have the depth. They have guys on the bench. They're running a shorter rotation. We haven't seen guys like Damian Lee, Juan Toscano Anderson, Kuminga, limited Jordan Poole, Moses Moody. We haven't even seen those guys. They're running a tight 6-7 man rotation, but it's getting it done. And the playoffs are about winning. And the Warriors do have a lot of younger guys on the squad, so the tight rotation is working for them. We'll have to see how this game 3 goes, which will be covered on Monday. Staying in the West, though, bro, let's talk Dallas, right? And let's give Jalen Brunson like flowers, daisies, rose petals. You know what I mean? Whatever you can say about recognition, let's give it to Jaylen Brown. You know what I'm saying? Because that man was in his bag like fries at the bottom. You know what I'm saying? You know the fries when everybody got to call them. Jalen Brunson, bro, you're down 0-1. There's no Luka. Everybody's morale's probably a little low. You're at home playing a Utah team who slipped in the rankings, but by all means is considered a top team in the West. All Jalen Brunson does is come out and score the first 15 out of 18 points. And then finish the game with 41 points, 7 threes. And then also got some help from Maxi Kleber, who had 25 points. He was 8 on 11 from 3. And the Mavs hit every clutch shot late in that game. But let's stay on Jalen Brunson, okay? Because went to Villanova. I believe he was a 4-year guard. If not 4, he was there for some years. He's a vet. He's poised, right? Championship. He's won at every level. He won a national championship in high school. He won a national championship in college. Trying to get that ring in the league. But when you got a guy like that who reads the game like that, went to college all 4 years, so really was a pro about his junior year as far as knowing the game and seeing the game. He gets to Dallas. So now he plays behind Luka. He's already a good player himself, but now he's behind Luka. His middy, his footwork, right? He's not the biggest guy, but his floater, and obviously we really got to insert the 3, his shooting ability, period. I said the middy, but the shooting ability, period, it has to be praised. And you got to fault Utah to a certain point. Because although Dallas lost game 1, they were in game 1 until the very end. No Luka again. Utah just were able to pull it out. Game 2, Dallas stayed right there with them the whole game. Right? The whole game. They just stayed with them. And now, that's the problem. When a team is down a superstar, especially in the playoffs, you got to learn when to put teams away. When you give teams life, they tend to get confidence and momentum. And things that wouldn't go their way start to go their way because you didn't end it when you had the chance. Example, the Philly series. I'm going to touch on that later. But that Joel shot was so big. Put them up 3-1. Put them up 3-0. 3-0 is so different than 2-1. In this case, a 2-0 series would have been so much different than a 1-1 series. Now, Luka missed game 3 again, which was today. He's going to be back for game 4. So while you don't know what could happen in these next 2 games, what could have happened is you could have won both of those games in Dallas and stole home court. Now you come back to your place and the burden is just about getting 1 game. It's just about winning 1 game. Utah, bro, they have massive meltdowns all the time. They gave up so many leads this year, double-digit leads. And then you lose a playoff game to a guy without their star player, who's their engine, who's their everything on that team. But like I said, I can't go too hard because Jalen Brunson's not a slouch. You know what I mean? Jalen Brunson can't hoop. So I don't want to make it seem like y'all lost to a bum. But either way, it should have been a game that the Utah Jazz should have won. I'm not sure who won tonight out of them in Dallas. I just think it's funny that Jalen Brunson's been good all year. He's been a solid piece all year. He goes off in the playoffs for 41. Bleacher Report the next day drops an article. The Pacers are interested. Right? It's like everybody on Twitter was already like, I can't wait to see him get paid, whatever. But that's the thing about being ready or staying. You never know when your opportunity is going to come. Jalen Brunson off for this 41-point game and the season he's had, right? Don't get me wrong. He's had a great season as a backup guard. Him and Tyus Jones, 2 of the best backup guards in the business, right? As far as playmaking, scoring, getting your team in the right spots, and both being on teams where when that star player leaves and Luka and Ja, they're able to carry the load and maintain the group and keep everything together, keep the ship afloat. as they would say, right? That's what a guard's role is. Both of those guys play the floor general perfect. Great backup point guards that you would want to have on your team. Somebody you may not want on your team right now, though, Trae Young, right? If you watch the last video, I guaranteed Trae would have 30. I guaranteed he would have 30. Instead, game 2, he came out, he had 10 turnovers. Yeah. Bogdan really held it down for the Hawks, but the Hawks go down 0-2, right? Jimmy Butler had 45. You see him hit the fade in 3. You see the Euro. You see the bag he was in all night. Now, I wasn't actually able to catch this when I was able to catch bits and pieces, but Miami is really there. Them in Boston, they're flirting on a crazy line of the first 2 games of defense and which one's more impressive. I know Boston's will probably be more impressive because of KD and Kyrie, who they're doing it against. But the Heat are doing it against Trae Young, Bogdan, Gallinari. Right, not the most explosive players in the NBA, I get it. But Trae Young's a lot to handle, right? In the first 2 games, game 1, Trae was 1 for 12, and he was 0 for 7 for 3. Game 2, he had 10 turnovers. Those 2 games there was a point that I mentioned earlier, and they have multiple bodies running at them. They got Kyle Lowry. They got Jimmy Butler. They can switch Bam on them. They got PJ. They got Oladipo when he gets out there. They got Dedmon. Hero is at least going to compete on that side, right? Tyler Hero. They got Gabe Vincent. They got Max Strus. All those guys I just named, I think that was 7 to 8 people, could switch out on Trae Young. Factor in the no Clint Capella, right? You take away his lob threat. Now you got a guy who relies on 2 things heavily. The lob and foul calls. The way these playoffs have been going is they're letting the aggression go, right? Defense is getting the benefit of the doubt on a lot of these calls, and they're going to let you play through a lot of that. That favors Miami. That favors Boston. That favors teams who play defense and really get all up in you on the defensive end. They going back to the A. They're a much better team at home. I can't remember the exact record, but they got a super good record after All-Star break at home. So that's the bright spot, is that they might have gave up 2, but really they haven't done anything. If you're down 0-2, which the Hawks are, you look at this like Miami did what they're supposed to do. They won 2 games. They took care of business. It's okay. All we got to do is go home and win our 2. Now, you don't win those 2. Now you start to flirt with a line. As always, I'm betting on greatness. We got to see something from Trae, right? The Hawks are only going to go as far as Trae Young takes them. Now, how far is that going to be? I'm not sure, but that's as far as they'll go. So if Trae Young wants to keep having these games, we're going to see a 4-0 sweep by Miami. That's really easy and no question. Miami's clicking on all cylinders. Really underrated pickups they made with Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker, bro. Those are championship players. You know what I mean? Those are guys that have went through the fire. Not only went through the fire, like they have won championship, but Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker both have made it to the Eastern and Western Conference Finals countless times. They know what it's like to be so close and not get there, and they know what it's like to get there. So adding that to a team where Jimmy, Bam, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, they all know what it's like to get there. They went to the finals in the bubble. They don't know what it's like to get over the top. It's for Kyle Lowry. It's for PJ Tucker. That's where UD comes in. All the vets on this team, they're in good hands, bro. I want to keep bragging on Trae, but Trae, give me something to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Back in the West, though. You know what I'm saying? Back in the West. We got something to talk about here. Phoenix and the Pelicans. All right, so Phoenix lose. New Orleans able to tie the series 1-1. D-Book has 31 at half. He now has a right hamstring injury. He's going to miss games 3 and 4. He's likely to miss games 3 and 4. What does that do to this series? Okay. What does that do to this series? And then my follow-up would be, can Chris Paul carry this team past the Pelicans in the first round with no D-Book? Right? The game that they won, the first game, the Pelicans actually charged back and made it a game. Game 2, D-Book is having an amazing first half. But you lose D-Book halfway through that third quarter. It just wasn't enough offense. It just wasn't enough. Now, do they have enough? Yes. Will they win the series? Yes. Okay. I'll still take the Suns over the Pelicans. But currently, The way the Pelicans are meshing, right? You got Brandon Ingram, you got CJ McCollum, you got Alvarado, you got the rookies, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. Alvarado's a rookie, a part of that too. You got Jackson Hayes, you got Valanciunas. You got all these guys, right? Valanciunas dominated the first game. I think he had like 20 rebounds, but he just missed so many shots. He came out game two, all those easy chippies in front of the rim that he was missing the previous game, he was making those now, right? Brandon Ingram finished with 37. I think it was like 37, 11, and 9, right? Numbers like that and efforts like that are what it's going to take to knock off Phoenix. Now, I've already told you how I feel about Phoenix, right? Head and shoulders better than a lot of teams. And that's with or without Chris Paul or Devin Booker. The thing that makes this team good, I've already said it, they run 8 to 9 deep of good, impactful players. D Book is out. That means we'll see more of Aaron Holiday, right? That means we'll see more of Shamet. That means we'll see more of Campaign. They have guys they can trust and insert into the lineup, which is why this team hasn't skipped a beat. D Book had a hamstring injury in the finals. He didn't say anything. Chris Paul missed time last year in the playoffs. Chris Paul and D Book both missed time this season. D Book, just so fittingly, was due to a hamstring injury, but it wasn't the same when he injured this time. So that's good. But it's things to look at, man. It's things that you got to be on the lookout for. Trey Murphy for the Pelicans, bro, is a straight snipe, right? The Pelicans have fearless rookies. They got Trey Murphy. They got Herb Jones, who Herb Jones is an all-world defender. He's still young, so he catches himself sometimes getting those dumb, useless reach fouls, right? Like playing help D, you just decide to reach in and see if you could get one away. You're not going to be able to do that. It's the league. But Alvarado, right? Like bringing that Patrick Beverly-ish, bringing that CP-ish. I've seen him maneuver the pick and roll. I've seen him shoot a couple minis. He actually has game more than like a decoy or energy player. And he can shoot. Now, you factor that in with Valanciunas, you know what you're getting. CJBI, you know what you're getting. They have the team. As I mentioned earlier, they lost game one, but they went on an 18-5 run in the third that made it a game. They just weren't able to hold on to that. They come back, they win game two. Now D Book is out for games 3 and 4 at least. We don't know after that, but 3 and 4 at least. This is a prime time and a prime example for the Pelicans to be able to steal these games right now. But you heard CJ McCollum already say like a wounded animal is a dangerous animal, right? Because they'll do anything to survive. So you're actually going to get a real gritty performance from the Suns. You're going to get them clicking on all cylinders. And I think CP is due in for one of those like big games. I know he had 30 game one. So I don't want to say he used his only big game up, but he's due in for one of those 30, 40-point games just simply because the Pelicans are a team where someone's going to have to carry that massive load unless you're going to get 4 guys on Phoenix who are going to put in 15 to 20 points each. Having 8 in the hoop or Cam Johnson or Mikal Bridges and then there being a big fall off between those guys and the second guys are going to get you in trouble because the Pelicans are a good enough team to exploit those weaknesses. In between the firepower of Dame and CJ, as I keep saying, anything can happen. But the Suns are a good enough team to be able to win this without D-Book. They need to take care of these 2 games. Worst scenarios, they go 1-1. Series is tied 2-2. And then we have another update on D-Book. I tell you what, though. With or without the update on D-Book, I got an update on another series. That's Boston versus Brooklyn. Boston shocks the world. Go up 2-0 on the Brooklyn Nets. I should be careful when I say shocks the world, right? What I mean shocks the world is in the second half of this game, KD and Kyrie combined were 1 for 17. KD went 0 for 10 in the second half of this game. The Nets went scoreless for 10 minutes to end the game. 8 for 30 combined for Kyrie and KD, and Boston takes a 2-0 lead. That is what I mean by shocks the world, right? Because Boston is the 2 seed. It's the weirdest thing, but to me, I still feel like in a way, they're the underdogs here. In a way, I feel like everybody's like, I know Boston's good. I know Boston this, and that, but they're playing against KD and Kyrie. KD and Kyrie, if they get hot. And not to me, I'm one of those people, but I'm saying Boston feels that. There was a shot that Tatum hit, and then he just started pounding the ground. It was a big shot. It was late in the game. They were getting real close to putting it away. But that emotion and everything, you can feel that, right? Horford has played amazing. Al Horford's played amazing. He got those comments from Bruce Brown, firing him up, right? Adding more fuel to the fire about, oh, they don't have Robert Williams. We battle with Tyson, Al Horford. We should be able to do that. That's easy. As I mentioned earlier with Miami, the refs are erring on the side of defense in this postseason. So, like, they're letting defenders play physical. And that's working for Boston. What they're doing to Kevin Durant, what they're doing to Kyrie Irving, especially KD, a lot of the work before the catch. KD is a technician, right? Once he gets into certain spots on the floor, there's not much you can do. But for everybody who knows basketball, the saying is do your work before the catch. If you do your work before the catch, now where KD likes getting the ball, where he's comfortable, where he could turn around and size up, now he's 2 to 3 feet back, right? Now he's a little bit pushed off. Maybe you make him do a little bit more fighting than he wants to. Precious seconds run off of that shot clock. Now he gets the ball, he has to rush his move. Or you knock him off his move at first, that gives more time for the double. All of these things are scenarios, man. Like, and they're factoring in all of it. Multiple looks, Brown, Tatum, Grant Williams, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, all of that. And then they're guarding pick and rolls differently. Off the catch, like I just said, they're guarding that differently. They have him and Kyrie Irving in a very unfamiliar place. And I can really say that because I always err on the side of greatness. That's for sure. I always err on the side of greatness. But game 2 has to hurt more than game 1. Game 1, you played from behind. And you still squander the opportunity, but you played from behind. Game 2, you were up. Up as much as 17 at one point. So to have KD and Kyrie, arguably 2 of the greatest scorers ever, or they're at least in that conversation, you're up 17 and you let these dudes roar back. And that's what I'm saying about Boston is they know that they're the underdogs. They know that no matter what they do, it's going to be, oh, but KD and Kyrie are over there. KD and Kyrie, whatever. They're not babies no more. You know what I'm saying? Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, they're not like kids anymore. They are hungry for their own. They have a team this year where they feel like they can get it done. They got the defensive player of the year. They got another guy in Robert Williams when he comes back who could be the defensive player of the year. And I said this in the first video. It's like I always believe in good offense over good defense any day of the week. But in this Brooklyn versus Celtics series, Boston's defense is so good that I'm actually like, I believe that they will stop the Nets before the Nets actually start scoring. Let me be careful with that because there's 2 things that play into that. One, the Nets were getting good looks late in that game. Kyrie and KD missed multiple mid-range pull-ups, and that's the difference. Boston's already going to play great defense on you. They're already going to make you work. They're already, like I said, they're going to be physical, all of that. So when you get a good look, you got to capitalize because you already need to make half of the difficult shots that you take, right? To have a chance at this, the way they play defense. You need to make half of the difficult shots that you're going to have to take. KD and Kyrie, they're tough shot makers. They can make those. But the wide open shots, they need to be converted at like a 70% clip. You need to hit about 70% of all of your open jump shots just off the way Boston's playing. KD and Kyrie had multiple chances to close that gap, and they just were off from the middy for whatever reason. And who wasn't off late in the game was Jalen Brown, right? Partly because you're switching Kyrie and Seth Curry on them. Jalen Brown knows how to play basketball. He led them in scoring with 22. And yeah, he hit every clutch shot in the fourth, bro. Like every big shot they needed. Tatum topped it off with a dagger. But just every tough shot. Listen to the scoring. Listen to this balanced scoring. In my first video, I said Boston won me over on 2 things. One, they can play and win together as a team. Example, Jalen Brown led the team with 22. Tatum had 19. Al Horford had 16. Daniel Tice had 15. Marcus Smart had 12. Grant Williams had 17. And Peyton Pritchard had 10. They can play together and win together. And then 2, I'm bought in on defense. for none other than 0 for 10 for the second half for KD, 1 for 17, him and Kyrie combined in the second half. What more do we need to say? Last thing I am going to say about this, though, is that Brooklyn can't let their foot off the gas, because the Nets have lost a game by 1 and by 9. And the one that they lost by 9 was actually closer, but it got away late, whatever. But that is without them having a good game. Brooklyn is yet to put together a good game. They're yet to put together a full one. Kyrie was perfect that first game, but they still lost. KD was terrible that game. A couple other guys could have helped out. So they're yet to play a good game, and they've had some nail biters with the Celtics. If you're a Nets fan, that's something for y'all to look for and look forward to. I'm still taking greatness. I had Brooklyn in 5. That obviously cannot work now, and they down 0-2. So I got to go Brooklyn in 7. Earlier, I touched on the D-Book injury, right? And D-Book is questionable for games 5 and 6, whatever that may be, but he's out 3 and 4. The Milwaukee Bucks, though, just lost Khris Middleton for the first round at least. That's all we know. He's out indefinitely, but the first round he won't be back, right? So this Bulls versus Bucks series, it gets a lot more interesting now. So the Bulls tied the series at 1-1. You know what I'm saying? DeMar went for 41. A game after he went 6 for 25, and he said, like, don't count on me doing that again. I wouldn't bet on that. That's what I mean when I say erring on the side of greatness. If you see something bad, if they're great, its chances are you could chop it up as a fluke, or you could chop it up as something else. That's why I was so sure that KD and Trae Young were going to come out and have explosive performances in game 2. They both did not. DeMar DeRozan did, right? Alex Caruso played great. Vooch played great. All the guys they needed to play great, who maybe didn't play their best in game 1, they did in game 2. My question is, because it gets real interesting, without Khris Middleton, because he's out for the series, how likely is it the Bulls can pull this off and win this series? I'm going to tell you right now, it's extremely likely. Because the Bulls, you can throw the stat away about them being like 2-16 or whatever they were against playoff teams this season. Whatever. I don't care. There was a moment where the Bulls were one of the best teams in the NBA. They had a huge fan base. DeMar DeRozan was MVP. And then they started hitting all these injuries, and COVID happened and all this. And along the way, they got lost. Well, all that matters in the playoffs is that you're here. So once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. So now you factor in, what if the Bulls start to find their stride, and you're left to look over at that Milwaukee team and ask, after Giannis, who's next? Of course, it's Jrue Holiday. But the drop-off between Giannis and Khris Middleton is very minor. What is the drop-off between Giannis and Jrue Holiday? Jrue Holiday is a capable player. I am not sitting here saying he could not go out and carry the load. What I'm saying is, he can carry it for a game. He might be able to carry it for 2, but he's extremely streaky. We seen that in the finals last year with some of his shooting numbers. He's extremely streaky. The question is, who's that reliable second option? If the Bucks don't have a reliable second option, I'll take the Bulls. I think the Bulls are a good team. I think they lost some games. I think for whatever reason, they couldn't find that camaraderie, that chemistry. But in a 7-game series, there's one opponent. You have time to just lock in on one opponent. That changes everything, right? You don't have to worry about schemes and everything. You find a game plan that works, and you make adjustments when they make adjustments. But with no Khris Middleton for the series, and me firmly believing I know what I'll get from DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine will play better than he did in game 2. Kobe White, Vooch. I feel real comfortable taking the Bulls. I didn't at first. Now I feel really comfortable taking the Bulls. Now what I'm not going to do is count out that man number 34 on the Milwaukee Bucks. But his offensive game is already limited. The team already plays a certain way. When you take away a key piece in Khris Middleton, which Khris Middleton is a key piece on that team, you now have to worry, where will the scoring come from? Right? And if you put enough eyes on Giannis, are you comfortable with letting someone else beat you? Of course they are. The Bulls are going to put all their attention on Giannis and dare anybody else on that team, Jrue Holiday, Brook Lopez, to beat them. Last game we going to cover, bro. Last game we going to cover. 76ers versus Raptors. I said it was one of the most boring series of the first round. The Raptors came real close to changing my mind because this was such a huge game. It's 2-0. Philly's in Toronto, so there's no Matisse Thybulle. And a loss makes it 2-1, and that's when you start playing with your food, right? When you start playing with your food, you start to give them life. So if this series would have went 2-1, while Toronto was at home, they came out and played their best basketball of the series. They came out hot. They came out with intensity. The crowd was on their side. If they would have won this game, they go 2-1, and now they're so invested on going 2-2. And for Philly, you don't want to be in that position, right? You want to nip things in the bud when you can when it's 2-1. Or you want to take the full advantage and go 3-0. So Joel Embiid has 5 points in the first half. MVP. He finishes with a strong third quarter, strong fourth quarter, and a game winner to win this one 104-101. Not to mention James Harden gets fouled out late in the fourth. Not to mention he made the game winner from the exact spot he missed the go-ahead field goal. So in the fourth quarter, he shot this same shot from the same spot on the floor and he missed it. Overtime, they was able to run a perfect play. He come off and get the pin down. He's able to catch it. This was big. Get a little redemption from the Kawhi shot. It's not the same, right? The rosters aren't the same as far as like when Kawhi hit it, Philly was a real true contender at winning the title, and he stopped that. Joel hit it, and it just did more of like put the series away, right? Because like I said, he misses that, or the Raptors win, it's 2-1, and momentum is shifting a little bit because Toronto's at home. That was big because you go up 3-0. Like I said, you get a little redemption on Kawhi. You answer with your own game winner. But then there's no Matisse Thybulle. You want to play as the least amount of games without Matisse Thybulle as you can. So whenever you're on the road, you want to try to win on the road so the series can be over quicker. Every game they lose, it would have prolonged the situation. Joel Embiid is playing like a madman. The Raptors don't have anything for him. That's why I say it was one of the most boring series. But they made it a game. So I at least wouldn't go the whole 35 minutes of the pod and not touch on them. I tapped on them a little bit. I touched on them, you know what I mean, here and there. But the next time I'll be here is Monday, bro. So that means we got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of basketball that will be covered on Monday. But until then, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.